welcome to the webinar. This is the second one I've done of the new interface, and this will probably be one of the last. So whoever's missed out today will get to watch recordings. So this is the new login screen, and the one thing that has changed on the login screen compared to the old version is this side here. This text here is now customizable by per provider, so you can actually go into our data resource area, which is a section that most people probably haven't seen, and edit this data. We call these bits of text we put through the system data resources, and you can actually find this data resource within the system and change it to your own liking. The reason for this is because in the old version, we've actually had to customize the login screen for a few people to put their own text on the actual login screen. And so when it came to upgrading people, the old login screen would overwrite their custom version. So we've just made it a bit more user-friendly from our point of view for maintenance, where you can edit it yourself and opened it up to everyone to be able to do that. The login box hasn't changed much, just username and password, and you log in. So I don't know how many people have not seen the old version, but basically this is now the brand new interface for the system. And I'm just going to run from top of the screen to the bottom of the screen, all the new buttons and what they do and how things have changed from the old version to the new version. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is the tabs across the top have now gone. Okay, and basically the tabs that were across the top have now been moved into an expandable and collapsible menu over here. So starting at the top of the screen, you have your institution logo, our logo. This here, I'll just load up a student so you can actually see what's going on. Okay. So where before in the header we used to have the currently loaded people, that has now gone to save space on the screen. It has now become a flyover. So using this flyover, you can see what student and what course enrollment you've got loaded, and because we've taken away the footer, you can see how long the page has taken to execute on our server. So basically, you know, as from before, if that execution time goes up, there's something going wrong with our server. If that execution time is low, but it takes a page a long time to get to you, then you know that there's something wrong with the internet or networking. It's probably network actual related. For people who want to keep the old version of that bar and have it at the top of the screen, we've now got this extra button called Show Classic Records. And if you do that, it will then leave that as it was back in the old system. So as you move around, you can always see what you've got loaded and what you don't have loaded. One of the other reasons why I took it off is because now I just show the basic student and course enrollment up here in the left-hand corner, and that's generally what most people want to know. But for backwards compatibility, I left that whole header section there. This is a new button which has already been moved from this version to the latest version that Sam and I are currently working on, and this basically lets you live chat back to Sam and myself. So if you click this button, it will take you to a new tab, and in here you can type your name, and I can just say, hey, I can pretend I'm, test person, and I can join a room, and you can see when you join this application. So this is an internal chat system that we actually use for support, and this will end up replacing, or this is primarily to replace those people who contact us via Skype. So now you can come here and you can say, hello Sam. You can see if we're online or not online, and you can chat to us live just in case just for a quick question or whatever, so you don't have to pick up the phone to get in contact with us. If you know we're around and you can chat to us. And then the other good thing is that this whole chat conversation is then saved on our server, so we can go back and look at, chats and questions. So even if we don't respond, if you ask a question, it's going to be saved and we can look at it at a later date. This button here is actually for the person who is logged in, so for the current user's login, and it basically shows for staff all the subjects that they're currently teaching, and then gives them shortcut links off to go and do things like edit in results and attendance, and they can get a directory listing of their classes, and they can email them. So it's just a whole bunch of shortcut actions for staff for staff to go off and deal with students pretty much, and business stuff that they have to do. This is requests. So this is requests that have been assigned to me. So the system has had for a long time the ability of being able to, assign someone a request and then have them deal with it. And then this is probably the newest area. This is communication events that have been sent out by me to different people. And I'm actually going to show you an example of sending out bulk cans using this methodology. So in the past, the system has always had the ability to email off invoices and cans and receipts and things like that, but you've only been able to do it on a one-by-one per student basis. Now using this new communication events, you can actually get lists of students any way you want, and I'm going to show you that using Report Builder. We can get lists of students any way we want, and once we've got a bulk list of course enrollments or a bulk list of students themselves, we can then actually communicate with those students in bulk. So that was one of the things that Sam and I've been working on probably for about the last year and a half, and we've been trialling it at a few places over this year, and now it's pretty stable. So we're pretty happy to ship it out and let people have a look at it. This button we've already talked about. Okay, so this is the button that lets you put down the header so you can see who's loaded or not loaded, and you can decide if you want that on or off. This button here logs you out, and this button controls the side menu. So because this new version, the primary reason to go into this new version is to make it mobile phone and tablet friendly, you can actually hide the side menu and then make it come in off the side, or if you want it there, you can actually just turn it into a bunch of icons. So you've got the ability to sort of customize how you want to use the system, and how you want it to look. It really is up to you. I pretty much just leave it standard, right, like this. Okay, because I've got a nice wide screen, obviously. All right, so that sort of takes care of the first row. Now I'm going to talk about this section going through here, which has sort of changed a little bit. So one of the things the system does is it can store in your local browser. It stores your preferences to the user interface, and this button here will actually clear those preferences and reset them. So some of those things might be, if you do this, like minimize that window. So you say, look, I never ever want to see on the summary screen advisor reports, and I never ever want to see reviews, and I never ever want to see request lists. If you do that, every time you log in and out, those windows will stay minimized, okay? If you then keep doing lots of custom changes to the interface and you want them to disappear, if you click that button, all those options will be taken out of local cache, and the system will return back to its default look and feel. The biggest change is now the actual student link. Student has a menu going off of it. So basically now what I've done is I've tried to divide the system up into two separate sections. So the left-hand side menu I'm trying to keep related to sort of academic data and areas, and then the across the top, this top menu I'm trying to keep to sort of business operations. So, general notes about students, invoicing, requests, communication events that have gone out to the student, uploaded files you've saved about them, their login account, so things like that. So there's no reason why you can't still have some of these options in the side, and then this menu now does exist across the top. Okay, so this is the audit link to turn back on the audit log table as it always has done in previous versions. So I'll just show you that quickly. So if we go to edit details and we say turn on the audit log, you can then see down the bottom of this screen all the entries that have been done to this student and who changed what values when. Okay, all the tables now have been moved into this style of tabbed tables, and you can set how many records you want to see per table, and now they're all searchable. So if you just want to see every time first name has been changed, if you start typing in first, it'll find any record that has first name. Or if we just want to look at the address ones, as we start doing this, address one. So this is all the times address one has been changed, whether it's address one or billing address one, it has that text in there. So it starts minimizing that particular window, that particular view. Okay, so we'll turn the audit log back off. So that audit log feature has been there for a long time and stayed the same. This button here, edit labels, is still the same. So this lets you come through, and if you click this button, anywhere where you see label and you want to change the name of that label, you can click on edit label. So if you want to call library card number, library system card number, and then save a label, when you come back here and you go reload on this screen on edit details, you'll now see that library card number should have changed to library system card number. Okay, that hasn't really changed. The extra thing that has been added in is if you want to hide fields now, you can do this edit form fields. And if you do edit form fields, what happens is it brings up a screen like this, and you can say per permission level if you want to show or hide that field. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll also be able to turn off and on that field if you want an editable or just view only mode as well. So currently this option only works on the student view. It just assumes that everything above the student view, so basically every single view, it just assumes you want to edit it, but I'm going to change that in the next version. And this button here, if you've actually hidden any fields, I'm just going to go back to edit details. This button here, if you've hidden any fields and turn that back on, it actually then shows you any fields you've hidden back in the screen. So you could, theoretically do that and then do edit labels and then go to form fields and turn them back on so they're no longer hidden for those particular fields. All right, so going from there, basically the rest of the screen, nearly every single button in the entire system has now been moved into a footer, and so no more having to look inside the screen for buttons. They've all been moved into there. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Moving on a bit more, so I sort of talked about the new interface quite a bit. I'll just quickly go over the last thing on the interface. So basically the tabs have now been moved into these side menus. They'll be exactly the same names as what you had on the tabs, and where the side menu used to change with the tab, the side menu options are now sub-options of those particular tabs. So that's been probably the biggest change in terms of the way you navigate around the system, is the tabs are gone, but they're still sort of there. Okay. I'm now going to show you a couple of the new screens that have also been developed for the system. Just I'll just show you that now. Okay. So one of the new screens that we've developed is this student timeline screen. Okay. So this basically shows you from now going back reverse in through the history of time, the actual events, all the data that has been saved about the student. So you can see here's now 20 days ago we sent them a Commonwealth assessment notice. We did a whole bunch of CAN testing for them.
Webinar.
But if but if we just want to see the actual notes on a person, we can just click on notes. So these are all the notes that have been written about them. If we want to see their notes and maybe their unit enrollment, we can just click on their notes and their unit enrollments, and we get a timeline through history of all their notes and all their units, and we can click on any of these items to go straight to them. So if you click on that, it takes you straight to the student program screen, and then from there you can link off and have a look at all the person's units, etc., etc. So that's one of the new things we've developed. I'm sort of thinking that this is going to be really critical for things like communication events. You can see when all the communications have been sent to that student, and even when you do things like issuing them actual invoices. So you can just click load more. As you can see, this person has done a lot of communication event testing. So we can see now where it's been issued and also where it's been paid. Okay, just give me 2 secs. All right. Okay. So the second new screen I've done is this new student audit timeline, and the audit timeline screen is basically the audit log, but the same thing backwards in reverse order. So you can basically see all the changes of all the fields, of all the records, and who it was done by to the student going back in reverse order. Okay, so if you just want to have a look at all the payments to payments, you can have a look at there and have a look at there. So you can actually see that going back through time. Has anyone got any questions about that? Those new screens or the new interface so far? No questions? All right. So that's a couple of the new screens. I will now also show you a few more things. There's actually a new way to do fees in the system. Hang on. All right. So I'm back again. Sorry about that. Okay. I'll show you the new edit time period screen while I'm here as well. So inside System tab now, if we go to the Edit Time Period screen, you can now actually search time periods by type as well. So if we just want to edit our census dates, we can say, okay, show me all the census date time periods. Again, it puts it in a table, and we can then expand that table to say, show me all 200, or we can then say, look, I only want to see census periods that have 2015 in them. So you can see I've only got one census period for 2005, none for 2014. So if you get the idea, you can play with the tables. It's much more interactive than it used to be, and look at census dates and do things like that. And like I said, all the data tables have moved to this style of with the search and the pagination in them. Okay. I've done that. Let's go to the bulk communication stuff. I think is what I'll show off next. So we've added to the system the ability to be able to do bulk communications and also communications on a one-by-one basis. it's actually been in the system for a couple of years, but it hasn't really been well utilized because I think, one, you couldn't really do stuff in bulk, and just sending out an email via the system wasn't really that useful because you could just do the same thing from Outlook or wherever. But I'm hoping now that we've got reports tied in with bulk communications that we can actually start sending out more communications from within Paradigm itself. So the first thing I'm going to show you is where the templates for the emails live, and I'll just go into providers, and there's a new area in providers called data resources or content search. So this area is where both the email templates live and the login and the text that lets you control the login screen also lives in here as well. So you can see here I've got two email templates, and I'm going to show you the Commonwealth Assessment Notice one. So this is basically a data resource is any sort of content or text you want to appear or use in the system. Some providers actually have web pages that they've written in here that get deployed to Paradigm. So it might be stuff on how to use the library, or these things can have file attachments like everything else in the system. So they will create a page on so when the students log on, they can get a assessment form or any sort of form. Like one provider has all their forms inside Paradigm all linked in here. So when the student logs on, they have a side menu option called Data Resource. They click on that, and then it shows them all the different pages, and they can get their forms. They can look at how to use the library. It links off on how to get into their online journal system and things like that as well. So you can basically use this system to set up content that you want to use within Paradigm. One of the things we're using it for is, one, to control the text on the login screen, and the second thing is to actually control email templates used in communication events. So by default, there's two. There's a Commonwealth Assessment Notice one, and then there's a default one. So this is the default template for a Commonwealth Assessment Notice. Things in curly brackets get substituted with real values. So you can see that here we have, I'm just putting in the person's first name and last name, and if you put in this URL read tracker, what will happen is when the student opens this email on the other end, it'll set the communication event to read automatically, so you can sort of track if people are opening or not opening these emails. So I suppose the first stage of doing a communication event is to make sure you have your email template set up. Okay, so I'll just quickly run over the general process of how the communication stuff works. So communication events generally work from a bulk list of students or a bulk list of course enrollments. Generally, I do them from a bulk list of course enrollments because generally when you want to send to a bunch of students, you want it based on a unit enrollment search or a course enrollment search. Either way, it's really a bunch of course enrollments that you're really sending. So the general process is you get a bulk list of students, and there's multiple ways to do that in the system. I'm going to show you via Report Builder. The second thing is using that bulk list of students, you then create a bulk list of communication events, and then if you want to attach reports to them, you take those bulk list of communication events and attach and run a report against them, and then from the very, very last step is then just to send them off. So that's the process I'm going to show you now. So the first thing we do is we go into Report Builder, and Report Builder has changed a little bit from the previous version. You can still do the general load, previous reports and all that sort of thing. It's just the output formats have slightly changed because of the new interface. So I've got this saved report called Fabian Bulk Test, which I'm going to load. And you can see here, I've pretty much got pretty simple fields in it. I don't really have any filter criteria because I'm using out of the base report parameters unit start dates and statuses. Now, the thing that has changed in Report Builder is this bit down here, is the report format. As you can see, the Excel versions have now disappeared, and that's because when you do this HTML version of it, you now have options from here to go straight to Excel and to PDF, okay? So we really only need one output format now, and that's the HTML version. So we'll just go back to Report Builder, and I'll just rerun that again. Student bulk test load. So one of the new options that has been added to Report Builder is this bulk select student. So if you include the course enrollment ID or the internal party ID into a report and do this option, you'll now get options to choose a bunch of to select the students and add them to the list. So this is a really good way for you to basically do save searches. So sort of where the concept comes, or save lists when you want to do stuff with save lists. So you can have a save list of sending Commonwealth assessment notices to higher ed students, to vet students, however you want to break the data up. You can basically have a whole bunch of save searches, add them to the list, and then away you go. So I've done the first step. I've got my list of bulk students, and you can see here I've got my current course enrollment list, and so this is my this is my bulk list that I'm going to work with. So now that I've done that, I go to the communication screen, and I say for these bulk list of students, create a communication event. Okay, so you see here, I am going to be the sender. I'm going to put test com 3. So I'm just going to do a Commonwealth assessment test, select communication type, it's an email, and I'm going to select my template, which is the Commonwealth assessment notice. So that's now popped in here. Gives the ability to, you can change the text in here before you actually create the communication event. I've got the status in, I'm going to put it in sent because we're actually going to send these off right now. And that one you can't choose because it's going to create one for everyone who's in the bulk list. So right now I'm going to create all these communication events. So save communication events for load students. So now I've actually now got a communication event for, and you can see that here because it now says the status is sent. I've got a communication event for my list of students. So once I have that list of communication events, I go to this letters section because I'm going to send them a letter. There is lots of different letters, and I'll show you that in a minute. But the letter that we're going to send is this Commonwealth assessment notice letter. So we're going to say get report on that. And basically you can now see that for this list of students, we're going to basically fill in some parameters and say we want to send these students this particular report. So this is how you would have run reports previously. It's just now that it's going to run the report for every student in the list and add them to and write them their own communication event. So we're going to make sure we've got the right enrollment statuses. Okay, so now we can say create report for communication events. So that's now going to go off, and for every single communication event in my list, create them a Commonwealth assessment notice. Okay, so here we go. We can now see that it worked for all mine. If the report doesn't work for some reason, it'll say up here it hasn't worked for number 5 or number 6. And we can now basically see that we can still edit the communication event and we can also view the report. So if I click on that, you can now see that that's that person's communication event. Fine. Hey, Sam. Okay, so that's that. Once we've done that, we can basically just say email the selected. We select them. We select ones we want to send off. So theoretically, you can view them all and say, I don't want to send this one because it's wrong. And then you just hit that, and it'll email that person their communication event. And if I don't say that one and that one, I think my email address is for that one up there. I can now just say email, and it's gone off and hopefully emailed all those people. And if I log onto my personal Gmail account, sign out, we should be able to see, hopefully, if it's still set as me, that communication event that's gone off to if I type my password in right, we might just get, come on, yeah, that's where I want to go. Okay, and if I just go to, just do this quickly, hopefully, if I'm still the email recipient for my test person, here we go. So here we see, you see that the subject has become what I typed in, and here's my email template with my name substituted in and my attached Commonwealth assessment notice. So this is going to be the new way you can actually bulk communicate stuff to students. If we now go back to my list of communication events for myself as a student, you should see that I have one that will be set to, if I just go student, I just reset the whole system, search, put me back in, so I just see my communication events. You should see that I would have had one there at the end set to emailed opened. And so that's what it's, once you've opened up the email, it'll actually say email opened. Whoa, what's going on there? Take me back. Okay, let me just, I don't want to go there. I want to go back to my screen. Thank you. No, this one. Okay. Is there any questions about the whole communication bulk sending? So you don't have to attach a report. You can just send an email off. At the moment, we've only got it working with communication events, but hopefully in the next few weeks we'll have it, or the next couple of months we'll have it opened up to, you know, online results, result transcripts, invoices, receipts, anything that you want to do. Also now when you do go when you do go to the accounting tab, so I'll just take you there now and I'll just show you that. So when we go over to the accounting tab, and you see on the actions button, email with communication event, so that'll actually send off a communication event with the report attached, so you can actually track that you've sent it to the student or what date you sent that email, and two, if they then open it or they don't open that particular email as well. So is there any questions about the communication event stuff? Does anyone have any questions at all? Is everyone still there? Hello?
Yes, sorry,
yep.
Unmute. No questions.
Cool.
It's going really well so far. Thank you.
No questions? Awesome. All right. Another new feature is this validation, what I'm calling student validation. So I'm hoping that this area, and I've sort of tried to follow what HEPCAT does. So one of the things I'm really trying to work on is, at the moment, the system sort of does when you create the HEPCAT and VETMIS reports, it actually checks the length and puts them in the right order and sort of gives you some messages at the end to say, look, this value was blank, it might be wrong, this one was too short, or this one was too long. Over the course of next year, I'm slowly going to change the way that the reporting actually works. So at the moment, the way the HIMES of VETMIS reporting and Vet Fee Help reporting actually generates reports is it loads up a list of unit enrollments, and then for whatever report you're running, walks through each element one by one and grabs it from the system and tells it where to actually put that particular element into the text file that it exports. So as you can imagine, as institutions are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, that way of doing stuff is becoming a little bit slow for certain institutions, especially once you start getting into the 5,000 plus student range, like it's taking 45, 50 minutes just to produce the EN and the LL and the competencies being done report are taking a long time. So what I'm going to slowly do is move away from doing it how I'm currently doing it. I'm going to write one SQL statement that will basically drag all those records out in, I'm assuming, under probably 10 seconds on my current testing. It can basically do about 4,000 or 5,000 records in about 10 seconds and write it to a file. The thing that doesn't do is that doesn't give you the, element by element, this was missing, that was missing, sort of checking the way I'm currently doing it now. So there's a trade-off between speed and the way I'm doing it now. So I'm hoping what I'm planning on doing is following the HEPCAT style, where you can come in here and validate one or multiple records or multiple students before you start running the report. So I would imagine for all of next year, most of the reports will still function as they are, and you can just come in here and do the validation. But I'm assuming the start of 2017, I'll have a lot more validation rules completed. At the moment, I've only got about 40 rules. So if you hit this button here, it actually shows you the rule list, hopefully. So at the moment, you can see I've got these rules currently implemented, and so I'm only checking 31 rules, and currently I'm really only checking stuff that, where providers say, look, we always have this as a data entry rule in HEPCAT. Can you add a rule to check this? I'm really been developing this with one provider at the moment on a one-on-one basis, because it was sort of their idea, and so, but I'm hoping over the course of 2016, this will come, I'll add to this, check every single field length, check if the data's missing, and you'll be able to get a full report from this validation on a student-by-student basis, or on a list of students of all the things that could be wrong for especially the HIMSS reporting, and then obviously the next extension of that is the VETMIS reporting. So again, for those who do HEPCAT reporting, I'm sort of following the whole rules level, where you can say, look, level 1 is just check that the value's there, it's the right length. Level 2 might be check that, that the EN file is going to match the LL file, and level 3 might be, even more advanced checking again. So at the moment, I think everything is just in level 3, because these are quite complex rules. They're not simple rules that I'm doing. It's pretty easy to use. You just say check what you want to do, and then you just say produce report, and it will then, for this student loaded, there's actually no errors, because I've got one student loaded. It only works for a single student. If I unload this student and go into system and run it from the system tab, so there's a student validation enrollment link there. It's exactly the same screen, except it runs it in bulk. You can now see that it's now produced me a report of, hey, these things are not what they should be, and they will probably produce an error in the actual HIMSS reporting when you go to do it. So if you go here, if you go there, you can see now I can just load that student up and go fix that bit of data. So that's another sort of feature I'm working on for. It's sort of, we'll get rolled out with the new version, and then all through 2016, I'll just add more and more rules and more checking, and hopefully you guys can use that and enjoy it and like it as well. Okay, there is a new way to do fees in the system as well, and I'll just run through what was the old way and what is the new way, and it's really up to people which way they want to choose, because both ways still work. For the smaller institutions, doing it the old way probably makes sense, because it's not that complex. For the bigger institutions, it was getting a little bit hard to manage. But either way, the new way does make the fees easier to manage. So under the unit screen, there's this thing called Unit Fees Edit. So in the original version, every single scheduled unit had to have, for the course, a fee associated to it for the fee type and the course. So if you're teaching 12 courses and you had 4 fee types, you basically had to have 12 times 4 fees per unit if that unit was being taught across all your degrees. Okay. The one thing that did give you was if a course didn't have a fee for the scheduled unit, you wouldn't have been able to enroll into that particular unit. So that let when staff came to do unit enrollments, was a way that you could also say, look, you shouldn't be enrolling this person to this subject because it doesn't have a fee. Lots of people now all the bigger institutions really don't find that particularly useful because they now use the online enrollment matrix where students are enrolling themselves online. So the whole what subjects should I be allowed to choose from is really restricted by the online course, online unit plan stuff, which I'll quickly show everyone just so people can get a refresher of what it is and how it works. But this is the new section that I've actually implemented in here, and what this lets you do is instead of defining units at the scheduled unit level, you can define fee rules. So you can say, in this case, for this degree, for this fee type, for this many credit points, for this unit level, this is the amount. And what will actually happen is when you go to enroll the student, it does a best match on the number of these fields it can match on and applies that fee. So you can see for this particular rule here, it doesn't have a course or a credit points, but it just has a unit level. So this rule would pick up anyone doing any course with a unit level 2 being enrolled who has this fee type of standard fee would get enrolled into this. But if they were in this degree and they were enrolling into a unit with 4 credit points, it would use this rule because it matches on more criteria and doesn't match on as many criteria for this one. So what the new fee rules let you do is it lets you actually define the fees for your institution. So in a more succinct way of probably how you actually deliver or price the actual units themselves. So at the ACT, for instance, all they use is a unit level and a fee type. Okay, so the structure of their fees is just based on is it a unit level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, and are you a local student or are you an international student? So all their fee rules are like that. Other places have a bit of a mixture where they have, okay, for this course doing this many credit points, it's this amount, but in this other course for the same amount of credit points, it's this amount based on the fee type. So I'm hoping everyone is understanding that how these fee rules actually work. So basically, yeah. So you can come in here and define the fee rules. So what happens is the system first checks that does the scheduled unit that you're enrolling the student into have a fee, and if it doesn't, it then comes and tries and matches a fee rule. So backwards compatible is fine. If you don't have any fee rules defined and you don't have a scheduled fee, it'll still come back and say, hey, I couldn't find a fee to charge the student, so I'm not going to do the enrollment. So that's another new way of doing fees. So, and like I said, the advantage of it is you might have 10 fee rules that you need to update between years or when the fees change for your whole institution, versus if you change the fees at the scheduled unit level, you've got to go through every single scheduled unit level for every course and change the fees. I think you sort of can do that in bulk as well, but like having 10 rules to change and manage is much simpler than having, the probably 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 individual fee rules at the scheduled unit level. So it's just up to the individual institutions of how they want to do it. We've got a few people who do a combination still, like they still like to have for certain subjects, like their audit subjects. They have specific audit subjects or subjects that don't, that the students have to sort of do that might not be related to their degree. They still put the fees at the scheduled unit level because it's not worth them creating a fee rule for those particular subjects. They just manage it at the scheduled unit level, and they can't easily make a fee rule to manage those fees still. Okay, I'll show you the new review stuff next. We're going pretty fast today, which is good. So I'll show you the new reviews. We've done a lot of work actually on reviews and progression and tracking progression. So now basically what we have in the system is you have a progression status, and you can actually set the progression status directly from the summary screen. So you actually don't have to log this, you go to the student edit screen to do it. And we also now have a progression level. So you can say what is this progression level at. So where this sort of comes in is we've been working with a provider on sort of being able to manage and track academic progression specifically for international students, but it'll apply across the board. So you can basically, they use this progression level to say at what intervention level are they at? Are they at intervention level 1, 2, or 3? Or what warning letter they've been sent? Have they been sent a warning letter 1, 2, or 3? Okay, so they use the status to say the progression is poor, and this is the actual warning letter or program, extracurricular activity stuff that they're doing. And associated with that, they also write a student a review. Okay, so if we go into the course enrollment section and go into reviews, let's load a course that has reviews. That would be also good for me to do. Okay, so let's load this bottom one. You'll also now notice that all the links inside a data table have been converted to images rather than having the words edit, add, create, delete. They've all been converted to images with a flyover. The reason for that is, again, so when you go to a tablet, we're not taking up extra real estate with stuff that we don't need to take up real estate with. Okay, so I've now loaded a course, and if I go to reviews, so that's the other thing that I've actually done is where the old student side menu was just one big long side menu, I've put the bulk stuff under student still, and the searching under student, and the summary and the validation under student, but stuff that's specific to student is in student details, and if it's a course or records that relate to a course, it now sits under course enrollment. So I've just sort of tried to reorganize the menus a bit so it makes sense of, this stuff is specific to a student, and these records are specific or related to course enrollments, and reviews in our case are now related to course enrollments. Reviews have been in the initial system since day dot, since 2003. They haven't been widely used because you used to have to add a reviewer to a course before you could write a review. We've sort of wrapped that all up into one big one process now, where if you come in to write a review for a person, even if you're not associated to that person, that course enrollment or that student, you can now come in and actually just add a review, and as you add the review, it'll associate you to the course enrollment automatically. So you can see here, this is the review screen. It's got a whole bunch of fields: review date completed. You can set a reminder date if you want. You can charge for them if you want. Blah 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 blah. The purpose, you can set a purpose and an outcome. But what we've really added is this ability to have checkboxes. Okay, so we're saying here that the student has got unsatisfactory progress, and for non-attendance and medical, and that we're going to, the agreed actions is going to be this one, and this one. and then we can write some extra notes and say, hello there. Okay. So once you've done that and you hit Save Student Review, so the other thing is that these options are code items like in our normal system, so you can add and remove these options yourself. You can also hide, if you're never going to do a committee review or stuff, you can hide the extra fields so you don't have to do them. Again, so now that I have actually written that review on today, the good thing about these is you can print them off now as well, and basically it comes up with an intervention strategy record, and you can basically say, hey, this is the person, this is the details about why we met, this is the agreed actions. They can tick the options, you can sign it, they can sign it, and then that becomes like an official record that you can then keep about this particular thing happening. I'm hoping in the not-too-distant future I can move this to online signing and make this a file attachment. So that's sort of where I'm starting to head with this stuff. But for the moment, I just want to see how people are going to use or not use reviews and see where it goes. Obviously, the actual end review letter, this letter here, you can customize and make it to your own institution's liking. But I just wanted to show you that, hey, this is a new feature that's in there. And if you do want to do reviews and intervention strategies and have a thing printed out for it, like a mini contract, and you sign it and everyone gets to keep a record of it, the system can do that, manage it, and track that information as well. Okay, so let's just go into Okay, so now I'm going to take you to a complete another new section of the system and things that have changed from the old version to the new version. So if you're migrating from the old version to the new version, this is a few more things that have changed. On the student edit details now, it's saved. It's remembered I had them all closed off. I'm just going to open them back up. Okay, so where we used to have student profiles in the past, that has now been moved into the student edit details section. So you'll no longer every year do a student profile. You'll just have the one student edit section, and all your student information for the HIMES profile will actually live in the student edit. So when I deploy the new version to people, what I'm doing is I'm taking the latest HIMES profile and copying it into the student edit details area. The other thing that has changed is the way addresses are stored. So because of VETMIS reporting actually defines addresses in a lot more finer detail than the way HIMES does it, we've actually created a new edit contact info screen. And basically you can come in here and it's its own screen now, and you get much more fine-grained control over how you have to store addresses. By default, all the old address information is still in the system, and this new screen lets you take that old information and bring it across and save it in here. So, and you'll also then see on the edit details screen now that there is no edit areas for editing addresses, right? Because it's in its own screen. All you do is you get this field and this field to say what they currently now are. The extra thing we've added in here is some also external protocol addresses, so we can, you can, if you want to get people's Skype name and Skype address, so you can send them a Skype message, you can, or their Microsoft one, or whatever you want, maybe, for some time in the future, you can start tracking and storing that information. You can have multiple address types now. You don't just have to have billing and residential. We've already added an employer address. So that way, if you need to, send the bill to their employer directly because the employer's paying for it, you can store that address for the student and send that information to the employer, or send a letter to or at least have it tracked. So that's that one done, and I'm just going through my list. So I was going to talk about the new interface, which I've done, bulk communications, which I've done, student validation we've done, timeline screens we've done. Email screen, I showed you the where the actual communication events live and how to do a template. report builder stuff I've done, email templates I've done. New email screen, I know what that is. New reviews I've done, unit fees I've done, time periods I've done, chat link. I'll show you the enrollment form, and I've showed you the new contact edit screen just there. Under the system tab now, there's also a way where you can have a look at your, when you send out emails, obviously if we're doing bulk communications, being able to see what's happening to the emails is becoming more and more critical. We're using a product called SendGrid to track emails, and what actually happens with SendGrid is you get in here a list of all the emails that have been sent, bounced, etc., etc., etc. So I can't show you that because my demo user doesn't have a SendGrid account, but what I can do is we can just duck into here quickly, and we can go there, and we can go into email events here, and you can now see it's calling the SendGrid service as we speak, and you can basically see all the emails that we have sent out to what addresses, if it's been delivered, if it's been processed by them, and then if the person's opened it on the other end. And if you want to see bounces, you just click on bounces, and it will show you all the emails that have got bounced, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a screen where you can come in and see what's been happening with your bulk communication emails or just emails in general. You can tick down this little box, and it gives you some extra things about what's actually going on there. So hopefully people can then keep a bit better track on emails as well. And the last thing I'm going to show you is the new online enrollment screen. And to do that, I have to log out. Yes. So what some providers do is they now actually off their public website link to Paradigm and let students apply for courses online. It's a two-step process. So the first screen they come up with is this one, and obviously this text is customizable by you. But basically what happens is you I've got to do app form 3 date of birth. I better not do that. It won't like that. Let's go 2000, and I'll do. So what ends up happening is the student comes into here. They do a two-step process. They say, hey, look, send me the link. Send me the link of where to go to fill out an online application form. The reason we do it like that is to stop people from just putting in crap data into the application form itself. And I log in, and hopefully I'll have an email. Not yet. Hopefully I'll have an email in a minute that shows me where to go. Here we go. Here's my course application registration. I click on the link, and then this takes you to our brand new online application form. So this application form does lots of checking of fields that you've got it all filled in, that fields are not blank, and this is just a default one. All these fields are pretty much turn-offable, turn-onable. So you can now send students from the very, very initial outset to come into here, come and fill in all the different information, including the stuff that they might need to get a USI. I'm not going to do it. It just takes too long. And then at the bottom of this process, if you want, this is an optional thing that people have, depending on how the person wants to pay. If they say they want to pay by fee help, it can then send them off to do their ECAF automatically. Now, for vet fee help, that doesn't work because the rule is you've got to have 3 days between the offer letter and the application form. So for vet fee help, you actually can't do the whole payment thing straight away. So for vet fee help, this option is really not an option. But if you're not doing vet fee help, if you're just doing higher education, and upfront stuff, you can then ask them how to pay. The thing I'm currently building into this now is also being able to take a credit card transaction straight away. So if you are a vet institution doing upfront fees straight off the bat, you can take a fee for the first payment for the actual course. The next screen of this, once you go past this, ask them to sign a declaration, that all the information they've entered is right. It also lets them upload files so they can upload previous transcripts, etc., etc., etc. There's a whole bunch of fields in here that that are not turned on by default, like emergency contacts, but people have got things on there like put in referees, so you can have up to 3 referees. For the religious ones, we also ask them who their pastor is, what their church is, etc., etc., etc. So this form has a lot of fields that are turn-offable and turn-onable, and this is only an example of probably the minimum fields you need to do. I'm assuming a vet. It looks very vet-orientated the way we've got it configured at the moment. So that's the application form. So then once a person submits this application, signs off the declaration, submits it, the student gets an email, you get an email to say that they submitted it, and then you can process their application and make them a real student or not a real student. Is there any questions? So this is generally the area that people ask lots of questions on. Is there any questions about the whole online enrollment process? So it's just, it's there. I just wanted to let people know that it's there, and it's something that you can configure and use in the future. I'm going to log back in. I'm just going to show you one last thing while I've got a whole bunch of people here. So because I did it as me, it's loaded up my test student automatically. Let me just blank that and start a new student. So I'm just going to quickly show the online enrollment screen for those who haven't seen it. So the student's been able to do online enrollments for a very long time, and it's just a good way for me to talk to everyone while they're here online right now to show everyone what it can and can't do. So under course enrollment, if I click on the right button, we have this screen called course plan, and if we actually load one, so this is this guy's course plan, and you can see anything that's got a tick box is something I'm allowed to do. Anything in blue is I'm currently enrolled in, and anything in orange is stuff I cannot do. Okay, and if I had stuff in here on green, it would be stuff that was previously to be completed. Now, most institutions have staff and students using this interface, and when I say staff, I mean people who are not registrars or constant users of the system, or who don't know the course structure very well. So if you've got staff you want to be able to do enrollments, they can come in and use this screen as well. So we've got a whole facet range of the way that this screen is used. It's used from students directly enrolling themselves to students sitting with a staff member, a head of department, or like they have an enrollment day where everyone comes in and they use this screen to enroll people, to the actual admin end users, because you can quickly select the subjects really fast. So across all 3 different permission levels, all the different users use this screen, and it's pretty simple. You basically select what you want to do. You say, yep, I want to do those ones, and then it shows you the scheduled units. You say I want to do that one and that one. If it has sessions that you can enroll into, you can actually then enroll into the sessions as well. By default, most institutions, if you attend that scheduled unit, you have to attend the session, so it's not a big issue. But it can also at this same time do session enrollment. You can then do check class times. It says, hey, your class times are cool, you've got no clashes, and then it says, you got to tick the I understand, and I want to enroll, so like a little declaration that they've chosen the right stuff and they know what they're doing. And then they can have an email sent of this screen of the subjects they chose, and then you just hit enroll now, and it actually enrolls the person into those particular subjects. So it's a relatively simple thing to set up for an end user to use. the way you actually set this stuff up is under the, if we go to the, I shouldn't have done that. If we go to the courses area, you set it up under courses and you go to outline, you actually set it up into here in this area. If I just load A, B, A like this, hopefully this is the right course, and I go outline, you actually set it up using this screen, and basically, as you can see here, I'll just open this up a bit to all the rules. So these are all the rules that were driving the screen that you just saw, and it's very simple. Like this course is very simple. Like you can have hundreds of rules in here. So basically, you set up core units, elective units, prerequisites. You can also have substitute units. So prerequisites is obviously, this, you've got to do this subject before you can do this subject. Co-requisites is easy because you've got to say if you do this subject, you also have to do this other subject, so it auto selects it for you. And then substitute lets you say, hey, this is an old subject has been replaced by this new subject. So if you have this one, it basically substitutes it as you've completed this new unit, but under a different degree. It can also handle majors and minors. So if you set a major at the course enrollment level, it only lets people enroll into subjects from their majors as well. So it has all those really funky abilities. This bit here is the longest bit in the whole process, is setting this up. But once you've done it once, you then don't have to do it again and again, and it gives students and staff a real easy way to do enrollments themselves without much intervention from the actual institution itself. There's another reason to also set up just the core and elective rules potentially, or maybe just the core rules in, where you would probably be doing unit enrollments at the moment. So if we go to the unit screen up here, and if I load a student, it'll be even more useful because then we'll actually see stuff. Search student. I'll just do my normal one. Okay, so this is my normal student I normally load under. Let's just see if I've done it on this version. Course enrollment units. So this is the normal. This screen has also had a bit of a. This screen has also had a bit of a change in the fact that in the old version you had a menu with 10 options in it. Those options have now been put into a pull down. So if you want to do stuff in bulk, you still can. There's a button here to remember the selections. So if you're converting from upfront to fee help in bulk, you can tell it to, if we want to make these ones upfront, we can tell it to remember my selections, and we can say convert units to upfront fees. Okay, and that will then convert it and remember that they're upfront fees. Okay, so now those ones that were fee help are upfront, and it's remembered what I selected. And then we can then also change, because we've made it upfront, we've now got to change the E490. So we then got to change the student status, and we've now got to say that this person is a non-overseas, fee-paying non-overseas, yes. They're fee-paying non-overseas. And we then change that, and then that will then change the E490 for those selected units. So that's the only sort of thing that's changed on that screen. Everything else, the functionality is all the same. It's just that the look and feel of it has changed a little bit. There's a new option in here, but when you want to search for scheduled units to enroll people is you can restrict them. You can restrict people to only be able to enroll into the units that are associated with their degree. And I can show you that. If I do this, I'll show you what I mean by that. This one, if I go to here, so this is now my local development version. Let's hope it's working. I'll show you another new feature that's currently in the works here. Okay, so I'm going to load the same student here as well. No, I'm not. I'm going to load that student. Okay, so this is on my local copy. If we say load, I've got to choose the right course. This one, edit course enrollment. Okay. Da-da-da. As you can see, my computer's not as quick as a server. La la la. Come on. And we now go to courses, student course enroll. No, I don't have it set up like that. Subjects. My menu is slightly configured differently on my local copy to the dev one, but all the screens are the same. One of the things you can do now is say restrict the scheduled unit searching via course plan. So if this one actually has stuff in there, first of the 1st, 2013 to the 30th of the 6th, 2013, we can then, when we click this search scheduled unit, it will actually only show the scheduled units that are related to the actual course plan for that particular subject. So I just wanted to show you that as sort of a new thing that has been implemented in the searching. I've got no scheduled units for that area, for that time period found. The next thing that I'll quickly show you that we're currently working on is a bit of an online help system. So you'll be able to turn on online help using this icon here when it looks all right, and walk through different tasks. So we've got the concept. We're hoping to have it finished later on. What's that? Okay. We're hoping to have this. We've sort of been doing it the last 3 days. We're hoping to have it finished in the not too distant future. Can you take that? It's just Bell. Okay, so I'll just show you basically how this is going to work. So I've got a task in here called enroll into units. So you can come in here, you search by that task, and you say, yep, I want to edit these, have a look at this. So you'll see this is the actual pages that are associated, or the actual steps that are associated with this particular task, and you can load the steps. You can then edit any one of these. You can add your own custom text, choose the permission level and things that you want to see them in, and what order. And then what will end up happening is someone can then go into this link, turn on the help, and walk through this custom, step by step, which will then tell them where to go, what to click on in the system, and it'll all be fully customizable by the end user. And you can even have different ones for different permission levels. So that's sort of where that's heading. I'm going to wrap things up there. I've got nothing new to show. I've showed off all the new stuff. I've showed off the new interface. This is the version we're going to be rolling out probably from the start of next year. So, institution by institution, we'll roll it out. And that's it. So I hope everyone's enjoyed the webinar. And is there any questions? Cool. All right. Well, I've recorded this session. So what I'll do is I'll actually send a link when the recording comes available. I'll send a link to everybody on this particular session so you can rewatch bits of it. And I hope everyone has a great day. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was excellent.
That's okay. Bye.
Cool. See you later.